Okay, so this is going to pick up where the other video left off. I showed how to use the basic tools or what they were, and then showed how to make a zone and add some heat transfer surfaces, which are the basic surfaces you get when you make a zone. Sometimes, though, within a zone, you want to create other kinds of surfaces. And the first one I'm going to show you, I'm going to enter into a zone, is the shading surface. And so you create a shading surface group, which actually can be made outside of a zone or inside of a zone. It associates the shading surfaces with the zone, or they can be building or site level objects. I'll show that after I finish the objects inside a zone. So I click an insertion point. I'm going to put it at the intersection of the window. Um, it's a little tricky to double click this because I end up clicking some surfaces on the zone. So another way to do that, there's actually a few ways to do that. You can open your outliner window and double click on it. That's option one. I'm going to go back out of it. I'm going to select it again. Another way to do it is go to edit, group, and then edit group. A third way to do it, which I really like, is I set up a shortcut, which I'll describe elsewhere. And then I can actually just hit my key that I have set up as a shortcut, and it takes me inside of a group, which is a quick way to do it if you're going to use it a lot. So anyway, I'm inside my group, and I'm just going to start drawing. I'm going to use SketchUp's inference tools here to help me size my shading device, shading surface, to be what I want it to be. And so I now have a shade over my window. And something I didn't mention before, but all of our surfaces have a front and a back. And the front side, the outside, is a darker color, and then the inside is the same color, but just kind of faded back. And so that same thing would happen actually if I hit our roof and look inside versus outside. So if a surface is for some reason reversed, which is very meaningful, it'll be evident from that. And then we have some other tools as well to see what's happening. Actually, I'm going to leave that hidden because we're going to go inside the building here in a minute. Anyway, back to our shading group. Um, Now that I've drawn that, though, I can move elements from it out. I can raise it up. So you can alter the geometry how you want to. And when you're moving things up and down, um, right now there's a blue line telling me I'm on axis with the blue axis, which is vertical. Um, or I can be online with green or not red in this case. But anyway, if I'm not on axis, you really have to be careful because you don't really know what you're doing until you let go and look from another camera view, and sometimes you make transformations that you don't want to. So I can just undo that and get it back the way I want it to be. So another type of surface I can make, sometimes I have building surfaces that are not part of a zone. I'm sorry, they're not part of a zone boundary, but they're physical walls in the building, and I want to represent those. So this is a new object we have called an interior partition group. And I'm just going to, for the example here, make a little box and put it inside of our zone. Again, I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut to go inside of that partition group, and I'm going to just draw a rectangle and extrude it up. And I'm going to use the eraser tool to get rid of a few sides. And I now have a cubicle in my small little office here. And those have a different color, but still they have an inside and an outside, and they have constructions associated with them, just like everything else. But you'll notice a lot of the attributes that a heat transfer surface had, this does not. It has a different use, and we'll get into that later. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to unhide my roof, and I can switch actually to a render mode here where you can see inside. Um, so that's what the X-ray would be used for. You can see through the windows. And then just to show what we would use shading surfaces for outside, I'm going to model an adjacent building here that's next door. Now, you would think you might model the building like this, but in reality, all I really care about is this facade here, and it saves Energy Plus a lot of time if you only model what you need to. So I'm just going to delete everything else. The other option is when I first drew to have not drawn a box, but just actually drawn a rectangle and extruded things this way. And if, let's say I drew something wrong, SketchUp determines the orientation of a face based on where you start, and this is backwards. As it happens for shading surfaces, that doesn't matter, but for other surfaces, it's more important. So I can just click it and then right click and then reverse the faces, and it will bring the color I want in front. So anyway, that's the basic surfaces. There are some other ones we'll get to later as we start talking about boundary conditions and other objects, but that's a good starting point.